Welcome back to my channel. I'm Hannah Blackwell, and today I'm going to be recommending you hate to love or rivals to lovers romances. So this video is a collaboration with a bunch of amazing friends and amazing booktubers. I'm going to have everyone's channel and their videos linked down below in the description, but it is Jess from Honest Fiction, April from Happily Ever April, Ava from Ava's Romance Books, and B from Mama Loves Romance, Tiff from Tiff Talks Pages, Becky from BeckX Reads, and Daphne from Being Daphne. These lovely ladies all have some amazing recommendations for you for some hate to love or rivals to lovers, or you might even say enemies to lovers romances. And we're just kind of putting together those three tropes kind of into one because a lot of times they are used for each other or used as synonyms. So everyone's videos are going to be down below. If this is a trope that you love, we're going to have tons of recommendations for you. If you have not already subscribed to my channel, I would love to have you do so. All of my information is linked down below in the description, including my Goodreads, Instagram, Twitter, as well as the link to me and Maggie's Discord, The Hideaway. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you can be notified every time I post new videos, and click the like button. Comment down below and let me know what is your favorite romance trope, and if you are a fan of rivals to lovers or hate to love romances, what is your favorite? Okay, so without further ado, let's get into this video. I have 10 amazing books here that I want to recommend to you. So the first book is A Heart of Blood and Ashes by Mila Vane. I think this is such an amazing quintessential enemies to lovers book, or you could say rivals to lovers or hate to love, but there's really not that many, I feel like, true enemies to lovers books out there, hence this video being labeled hate to love or rivals to lovers. But I honestly think this is one of the very few full-on enemies to lovers. This book is really good. It's a fantasy romance. It is inspired, I believe, by either Celtic or Norse tradition. I'm not positive, but it's kind of like medieval setting, but fantasy. And we have a hero and a heroine who are true enemies. The heroine is a daughter of a family who basically killed our hero's parents. And so he is obviously not so happy with her, but they decide to get married basically to get back at her brother, I believe. And they are just basically having this marriage of convenience and experiencing a lot of attraction while still really hating each other. I would say more so he hates her. She doesn't hate him, but he just does not trust her at all. So it's really good. I thought our heroine was just an amazing character. She was so strong inside. She did have some disabilities from some injuries that she had, but she worked around them. She was so strong. She just pushed through and pushed through constantly. Like, what a survivor. She was just such a strong heroine, and his romance, I thought, was very passionate, but very quintessential enemies to lovers. This was done really well. I thought the world building was really good too. I'm looking forward to continuing on in this series. I guess the latest book to come out, it's not been released yet, but Mila Vane has taken quite some time with it, so hopefully that comes out. But I do have the sequel to this. I recently got the sequel, so I'm excited to read that. Next, I have a historical romance. This is Lisa Kleypas's Secrets of the Summer Night. Once again, like many hate to love stories, we have one character who kind of like hates the other character more, and in this case, it's the heroine. So this is the first book in the Wallflower series by Lisa Kleypas, where basically each set of these 4 friends is a wallflower, and they decide to help each other out to get married. This is the beautiful step back for this book, and our heroine does not like the hero. She thinks that he is a rake, which he technically is, but he also really wants our heroine and will do anything to have her, but she just does not trust him, and there is so much bickering. I swear, one of my favorite parts of a hate to love romance is the bickering, the banter, the back and forth conversations, and it's really good in this one. So I definitely recommend it if you want to read a historical hate to love romance with a lot of fun bickering banter, a lot of witty banter. Next here I have an all-time favorite book of mine, and I would call this maybe like a magical realism historical fantasy, and this is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. If you are a fan of a writing-driven book, don't miss out on this one. The writing in this book is phenomenal. It's especially lovely to read in autumn because of the beautiful imagery. This is about a circus that shows up. It just appears out of nowhere and it's only open at night. People don't realize, but the magic that they're seeing that they think are magic tricks are actual magic. And there is this competition, and it is a competition that is literally life and death between these two proteges of these two magicians. And these proteges are basically pitted against each other in this fight to the death. And it is a competition that takes place over a long period of time. They don't know how long, because it's basically to death, but they don't quite realize that in the beginning. But it's not really a spoiler either, don't worry. But they basically compete via their performances at this circus. But they also start to fall in love. And this is a rivals to lovers or enemies to lovers, I would say more like rivals to lovers romance that has super high stakes. But like I said, it is beautifully written. It is not a plot forward book. Some people say this book doesn't have a plot. I do not agree with that whatsoever. I think there's a very clear plot in this book. I just think it's not plot driven. It's definitely writing driven and character driven. The atmosphere in this book is phenomenal. This is very cozy. This is very beautiful. It's very autumnal. If you want to be transported into a place, especially like a circus in the fall, in, I believe this is maybe Victorian era England, go check this out. Okay, switching back to fantasy romance, I have a novella here, and I'm looking forward to just continuing on with this series, but it's a recent read. This is Sven The Collector by Denali Day. This is a hate to love romance because we have a heroine who is basically captured by Sven. He just shows up on his wyvern. He's a wyvern rider. This is a Norse-inspired fantasy romance series, and these are barbarians. So he is basically like a Norse barbarian that rides wyverns, which are basically giant dragons. But I believe that wyverns have wyverns have 4 legs and dragons have 2? Let me know down below. I think wyverns have 2 legs. Maybe it's wyverns have 2 legs and dragons have 4? I don't know. Anyway, he's a wyvern rider, and he captures her to make her his bride, and she is none too happy with that. She's a badass female heroine too. She can take care of herself, and she decides to basically make this wyvern rider's life a living hell, forever trying to capture her. And there's a lot of fun bickering and bantering in this book too. It's super short. It is, like I said, a novella. It's under 100 pages. Unfortunately, basically every book in the series is on KU except for this novella. You have to buy the physical copy of it. I don't even think there's an ebook for this. There might be, but it's not on KU. But I definitely encourage you to read it. Another fantasy romance that I would say is more of like a very, once again, one-sided hate to love or enemies to lovers. For this one, our heroine believes that the hero is her ultimate enemy, but the enemy kind of doesn't whatsoever agree. He's in love with her from the start. So this is Bow Before the Elf Queen by J.M. Curl. Our heroine basically has wanted to murder this prince and his father for her whole life because his father killed her parents. She is an elf. She has really, really cool like plant magic. She can weave and create these vines that come out of the ground, and they're actually quite damaging, and she's very powerful. And our prince shows up one day to take her away, and she's basically just out to kill him, and like she hates him. And he has some news for her, and that is that she cannot kill him because if she kills him, she dies too. So they're forever bonded, and it's shown in the very beginning too. In the book, they're basically forever bonded by this like mate bond, and he actually really loves her, and he just wants to do everything possible for her. So on his side, it's not enemies, but it takes her quite a while. She hates his guts, and she wants to off him. So definitely a one-sided enemies to lovers. But it's also a really good book. I'm looking forward to continuing the series. I don't recommend the audiobooks. They're just really poorly done. But in my opinion, that's just my opinion. Just my opinion. They should have picked different voice actors. But the book is really good. Just maybe read it physically. Okay, so next, another fantasy romance. I just love, hate to love, rivals to lovers, enemies to lovers, whatever, when it is in a fantasy romance. Specifically, that's why you have seen basically most of these are fantasy romance of some sort, but this is Zodiac Academy. Now this is a bully romance, so like super enemies to lovers. Now this is about these two Gemini twins. They are living in modern day, the real world, until one day they find out that they are actually heirs to this Fae kingdom, and they're taken off and they're brought back to the Fae realm, to this school. You could call it a Hogwarts of sorts for Fae, and the houses are determined by the elements: fire, air, water, and earth. And everything is kind of all about like astrology, and it's really, really cool. I liked it. There's a lot of love interests in this. There's a lot going on. This will really hurt you in so many ways. No, the writing isn't perfect, but honestly, this sucked me in. I binge read the first 5 books in the series, and I really want to continue. And I just needed a break because of the way the 5th book ended. I just couldn't. So, but I will be continuing on. I think there's still one more book to come out in this series. But I definitely recommend, if you want an addictive, like crack in these pages, addictive fantasy romance series, check this one out. Especially if you're okay with basically constantly having your heart broken. Just be aware of that. So next I have my last physical book here, and this is Fourth Wing. I wanted to wait a little bit before I recommended this because I feel like this is probably going to be recommended a lot. Maybe not necessarily on this list or like everyone else's, but like I think in general Fourth Wing is being recommended all across BookTube right now. So, but I felt like it would be a disservice not to mention it on this list because this is a really good Rivals to Lovers. Once again, I would say like a one-sided Rivals to Lovers, but whatever. This is a really, really cool story. I give this book 5 stars. This is a Dragon Rider fantasy romance series with like a military academy. I love a magic school / military academy in a fantasy or a fantasy romance book, and this one is just really good. There's really good representation in this too. Our heroine is disabled. She has a disability, and she has to find different ways to get around these challenges that they are experiencing in this competition to become dragon riders. And this is just really good. The romance is really good. I thought it was hot, steamy, fun. I thought this did basically everything I wanted from a YA fantasy romance, except for it's not YA because there is like some serious smut in here. I don't know if I would say serious smut, but there's smut in here technically. So it's not, and so it wasn't put in the YA, but honestly, it reads straight up YA. If you like Throne of Glass, if you like SJM, I feel like it's okay to say like, if you like SJM, you're going to like this. If you like the Red Queen series by Victoria Aveyard, you're probably going to really like this book. Okay, the last 2 books on my list, I don't have the physical copies of. So the first one is Zoe Draven's Captive of the Horde King. We're going to be reading the series for the Hideaway Discord read-along, and I'm excited for that because I adored this book. I give it 5 stars. This is an alien romance, but it is very much like Game of Thrones, Dothraki fan fiction. So if you, like me, were obsessed with the Dothraki in Game of Thrones, check this one out because it reads like Dothraki fanfic. I loved it. So our heroine basically sacrifices herself when her brother totally messes up and does something that's like really off limits. You're not supposed to do that on this alien planet, and that's burn the grass. He did it because he was trying to basically fertilize the ground and make them be able to grow plants because they were starving in this little colony basically on this planet where they were allowed to live. And the planet is originally inhabited by the Dakari people. And there are these hordes and these horde kings of the Dakari people, and a local horde king shows up when they see the smoke, and they show up basically to punish this colony for burning the ground because it is sacred to them. They don't do that. So anyway, our heroine decides to sacrifice herself for her brother, and she ends up married to the horde king, and it is their romance. It is so good. It is so good. And I would say this is not like enemies to lovers. They don't know much about each other. They don't quite get along. They don't like each other because of the situation in the colony and the basically poor quality of life the Earthling people have at this colony. They really are not fans of the Dakari people. They feel like they are being treated very poorly. So in that way, it is hate to love because she really doesn't like the Dakari people, especially someone who leads these people and makes these laws that make it really hard for her and her family to survive. So it is definitely a hate to love in that way. And on his side, I don't know, I think it's like a little bit more of like a what's up with this girl, what did I do kind of situation. So there's a lot of good banter. There is just some really good steam. I loved this book. I thought it was really, 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 really well done. It had a good plot too. It was just fun. I'm looking forward to continuing the series so much. I think there's 6 books in it. If you want to read along with us for the series, we're reading this book, the first book, in August, and we'll be talking about it on the Discord, the Hideaway Discord. There is going to be like a thread there. You'll see it for Captive of the Horde King, and then we'll be reading the second book in September and continuing on until we finish each book a month, and then we finish the series, which, like I said, is, I think it's like a 6-book series. I'm sorry, now I have 2 more. Sorry. Okay, so how many is that? Yeah, I think that's still, yeah, that's 10 books. Okay. So I have Dare to Be a Duchess by Sapna Bog. This is a historical romance, and our heroine just basically is always giving this Duke crap. He is her best friend's brother. She is treated really poorly in this society because she's half Indian, and her father is either a Marquess or an Earl. I cannot remember, but her mother's side of the family were merchants. So she's treated really poorly by society, and her and the Duke do not get along. He basically wants to avoid any gossip. He wants no scandal. And he does everything perfectly properly. And she is just not like that. She's just a fun-loving woman, and they don't get along. They are constantly bantering. This is not enemies or even rivals to lovers. This is just like a hate to love situation, right? Like they just do not get along. And it's really fun. I had a great time with this book. I give it 4 stars. Really enjoyed. There is another book that came out in this series that I really want to read. So yeah, I thought Sapna Bog did a really good job with this one. Also, I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. If not, I apologize, and let me know the correct way to pronounce it. Okay, so finally I have a witchy fantasy romance, and this is actually the 2nd book in the series because I liked it so much better than the first book. That's Don't Hex and Drive by Juliet Cross. This is about a witch and a vampire. And the witch basically, in the very beginning of the book, gets hit, like run over by the vampire. He hits her with his car. So they don't start out on the right foot, and she actually has like a fear of cars and a general basically fear of going out and being around a lot of people. She's very introverted, and she has a lot of anxiety. So there's anxiety rep in this, and the vampire is basically completely opposite, and not to mention swoony AF. If you ask me who my book boyfriend is, I would say Devraj. If you asked me before this book, I would probably say Cassian. Now it's definitely Devraj. Oh my gosh. He is amazing. So yeah, like Juliet Cross definitely wrote a swoony hero in this one. So It's got the witchy vibes, it's paranormal, the romance is really good, the banter, the comedy is really good. This is very much like a romantic comedy. The smut, the spice, the steam, oh, hot, 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 hot. Check this one out if you haven't already. I definitely recommend, like, I don't think the first book is really necessary. The first book in the series is called Wolf Gone Wild. A lot of people like it, I guess. So maybe check it out, but that's a werewolf and another sister. I think there's like 6 or 7 sisters in this family, and each book is about one of them, but I wasn't a fan of that one. I didn't like Mateo. I didn't like the hero, but I adored this book. Each one's a standalone, really, and from what I noticed, like, I think you could go straight into this one, or you could just start at the beginning and then read the first book and then read the second one. But yeah, this was a really good one. And like many of these, this is one-sided hate to love. It's not rivals to lovers, it's not enemies. And then, not to mention, like, he likes her. He doesn't really feel like he's sure about a relationship, but he definitely likes her, has no problem with her. She just hates him. She thinks he's irresponsible. She doesn't like how everyone fawns over him. He's an ex-Bollywood star and just basically known to be super swoony, and he gets along with everyone. He's very personable. He's very outgoing. This was a really, really good one. She's not having his shit. She's not having his charm, and the banter's good in this one too. And like I said, the spice and Devraj. So definitely check this one out. Okay, so I hope you guys like these recommendations for hate to love or rivals to lovers. If you want more recommendations, please make sure to go check out my friends' videos. They're listed down below in the description. They're all going to be listing some really great rivals to lovers recommendations. I'm definitely going to be watching all of them because I need more rivals to lovers, hate to love recommendations because it is one of my all-time favorite tropes. If you like this video, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Click the notification bell if you want to be notified every time I post new videos. All of my social media is linked down below in the description, including my Goodreads, Instagram, and Twitter. Until next time, fellow readers, keep reading and living your best life.
You said you felt that way, and guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away.